In Sydney. It's going to stage both semi-finals and the final. It is an 80,000 plus sellout. Been a bit of rain there. Fine though at the moment. Let's join our commentary team, David Soul and Nigel Starmer-Smith.
Good morning, good evening. The afternoon storm in Sydney has moved on, but there's a real storm brewing here on the field. The excitement builds, and tonight in all likelihood that decisive match to determine who will top pool be, Scotland or France, and you'll see Scotland taking the field in their change strip because of the clash of colours. Well, we're back in one of those great sporting cathedrals. It was the setting for the opening ceremony, the Telstra Stadium, Sydney, focal point, of course, of the last Olympics. Full house, just about 83,500 people here in Homebush, just a short boat journey up from Sydney Harbour, and for both these teams, the first real test, I sense, of this World Cup for them. And the teams line up, and of course a Scotland side, well, they've had to bring in Cameron Mather, arrived only 5 days ago into the back row. That looks a testing night for them in the back row. John Peach is on the bench, but we sense he may not be fully injured. That's a late call, and there in fact is the France lineup. 7 changes from an unconvincing win over Japan. They've stuck with 14 of the players who swept Fiji aside. Michalak at fly half, Galtier, his 4th World Cup, there's experience. Tony Marsh in the midfield, extraordinary rehabilitation after a cancer operation. And the front row, formidable, the one big change, Mark Cornet back after injury. Now Scotland, well, we mentioned Cameron Mather in the back row. No Martin Leslie, of course, no Andrew Moore. Mather, big night for him. Murray and Grimes, 31st time together. And, well, I guess we're all wishing a great day for Gregor Townsend. He has that capacity to be brilliant on his day alongside Brian Redpath, the captain. Patterson's goal kicking is crucial. And, well, I can tell you this is a cauldron of excitement, if that's not too often a used cliche. It is just that. And as the crowd goes quiet, we'll listen to the anthems. Rendition of La Marseillaise, first written and performed. Rouget de Lisle wrote it in 1792, but another moving moment now, especially north of the border, flower of Scotland. there's tremendous Scotland support here, and the atmosphere is fantastic. So now the formalities are over. We'll be back with the action next. We're all set. Alongside me, as ever, David Soul. Probably as important a game for Scotland as the one when you led them to victory in the 1990 Grand Slam, David. Is that over-exaggerating?
Well, it's crucial, this match. I'm on the edge of my seat already, and if the players are half as nervous as I am, then there'll be plenty of adrenaline pumping.
There's David McHugh from Ireland in his third World Cup. Key area for you in this whole contest?
I think the back row. Need big games from Simon Taylor and Jason White.
We're underway. It's the big one here in the Telstra Stadium. McHugh, the young fly half. Scotland in the white. And immediately from Patterson, it's in play still. Hanging on the 22-metre line, good take by McHugh, but he was outside the 22, couldn't call the mark. Flipped away. And again with Patterson clearing, but failing to make touch. Dominici's kick is going to be on the full or not. It may go over the dead ball line, and that's fortunate for Scotland.
Yes, and of course with the ball going dead like that, they'll have to come back to a scrummage where Dominici made the kick. So that's quite fortuitous for Scotland.
Dominici, who has really made quite a remarkable return to the French side. He missed 16 tests and didn't come back until the summer tour this year. You know what he's done in the past. Today is 33rd international. Here's a big moment then, the first scrummage with Brian Redpath, the captain, to feed. Flip to Gregor Townsend, and immediately on the loop is Gregor Townsend. The big tackle is on Andy Craig, and there's a penalty straight off as Scotland failed to stay on their feet, and they're penalising Townsend.
Yes, Gregor Townsend guilty of going to ground there, trying to win the ball back for Scotland as the tackle went in. This French midfield, very impressive against Fiji. They made a change playing against Japan up in Townsville, but I think bringing Josian back makes it very impressive. There's Gregor Townsend. A little bit unfortunate. I think he possibly slipped when he went in there.
50 points in 2 games. Frederic McHugh from Stade Toulousain. Just 21. Set out as a scrum half, but has now become #1 fly half. And there's a bit of heckling going on here. A lot of Scots in the stadium. Messeron will not be phased, and Messeron has missed. McHugh off target.
Well, a let-off for Scotland.
Tense early moments. You could see perhaps the close-ups of the players, the tingling nerves, almost twitching, some of them, as the camera came by. Here's McHugh again. Floated into a little bit of gap, but it soon closes, and Scotland do well here. Good work by Gregor Townsend. Now Scotland looking to set it up on the halfway. McHugh into the tackle. Nicely taken on by Craig. Craig held. Redpath. Now he's in the back row with Jason White, first of all. Almost through, Redpath. Just a knock-on. I guess the other thing, David, is that we'll be looking for another big one from Simon Taylor. He's been terrific so far.
Yes, he's had an outstanding World Cup for Scotland so far. He's now become one of the most experienced players in the Scottish 8, despite being really very young.
Just 24. Very much Scotland's player of the season these last 10 months. It's on the halfway. It's Fabien Galtier, France captain for the 22nd time, and he's using McHugh on the short side. Brusque knocks on. It could have opened up space, but it's a knock-on. And those early tense moments and the nerves perhaps contributing, and a little bit of grease. We had, as I said earlier, a very, very heavy storm today, but it's left the ground perhaps a little slippery on the surface.
Yes, he took his eye off the ball there, clearly. Nicolas Bruce didn't play terribly well against Fiji.
Many thought Poitrenaud would come in. And France guilty of boring in, I think. There's a penalty to Scotland just inside their own half.
Quite often it's a bit of a lottery when the referee awards penalties in the front row. Sometimes when loose-head props are putting a lot of pressure on the tight head, it's nothing but you can put bore in. And the French got an early nudge in the first scrum. I think they're looking to put Scotland under pressure in this area.
Clearance by 80 times kept Gregor Townsend, and here another man of vast experience that McGee can stand for. Gordon Bullock's throw in a well way. Townsend on the loop once more. Now the big headstrong drive. Redpath glances up, goes to Townsend on the left. Now the powerful figure of Stuart Grimes. Over goes Bullock. Chip through, didn't come off for Redpath. No knock on given, but it's still with Scotland. Is this a drop goal attempt? Henderson, it's charged down if it was. Not so clever. Townsend scurries back. He's really the only man left in defence, and this is Magne, Olivier Magne. Scotland in some bother. Great cover from Patterson, but the danger not yet over. Well, Patterson to the rescue, and boy did he need to be. And in possession is Logan, so the winger's doing well. Well, somewhere there's a ball. Redpath opts to clear himself, does so well.
Well, a let-off for Scotland in the end. Andy Henderson looking very hesitant in the midfield there, very indecisive. They need to be far more decisive and aggressive against this French side. They've really got to take the game to France from 1 to 15. They can't afford to stand off or be hesitant.
Throw in by Ibanez. Vast experience in the French lineup. Well, truck and trailer. This is the shielding unfairly of the man with the ball. Well, they've singled out Betson, I think, but this has been one of the controversial issues of the World Cup, and England were first criticised, but David McHugh has now penalised France.
Oh, it's interesting listening to David McHugh. There's the two players clearly in front of Rafael Ibanez. Breaking off, blocking, and I think that's a good penalty to give.
Seems fair enough. Redpath, Townsend. Henderson chasing up the middle. Rougerie in trouble. Good charge down, good pressure from Scotland. Just outside the French 22. It's rather a loose pass. White. Redpath to the open side. Townsend, that might be a clever ball. Dominici on his own line. Well, he's got great acceleration. It could be a dangerous counter-attack. The kick through by Michalak, great pickup. That was from Metcalf. Dominici uncertain what to do there. Betson has gone way out to cover the left wing. Galtier. Redpath. Swallowed by Magne. Well, he has a job to roll away from that tackle. Mather, though, was the one penalised. You've got to come in from behind, not the side. This is Cameron Mather, who remarkably, just a week ago was training with Scotland's Gasly, expecting to be on this great stage tonight. His last cap being against France some 3 years ago.
Well, Scotland have had some real injury problems in the back row recently. Andrew Moore hasn't played a game in this World Cup, ended up with a knee operation, and then John Petrie injured his shoulder against the USA. They called up Cammy Mather as a replacement for Andrew Moore anyway, and then of course Martin Leslie got what I felt was a very harsh 12-week ban. I think he probably deserved the ban, but 12 weeks I think has been a little bit inconsistent in this World Cup.
And is now subject to appeal. Meanwhile, Simon Taylor tidying up. But there was a knock forward at the line. That Scotland ball. Well, Scotland will have wanted to put behind them their last encounter with France in the Six Nations, which was a pretty comprehensive defeat. Went forward, players offside. If the ball was knocked forward, advantage being played, that seems, well, unfortunate with Mather caught offside, with the ball just coming, and it was just a reaction, wasn't it? Instinctive.
Yes. Very difficult to do anything other than catch the ball.
And it may cost Scotland dear. Here's McHugh. Words between McHugh and Galtier.
Well, again, France trying to put pressure on that Scottish scrum. I think they've identified Taylor as a danger man. He's very quick off the base of the scrum.
This is an important moment. He missed his first one. He'll need this for confidence. Frédéric Michalak. This time there's no problem. So Michalak, who was on target with half a dozen penalties and 4 conversions against Fiji and 5 conversions, 3 penalties against Japan, now opens the scoring here. Played 11 minutes. Scotland, as fitter national side that has ever represented Scotland, really have built up superbly well for this great cup. Now, chance here. This time it's France, over-eager, over-zealous, diving in over the top, and this surely a certain 3 points.
Well, you'd have thought so. They don't come much simpler than this in rugby. But 20 metres out from the post, pretty much directly in front, should be a formality. Good pressure there. 3 Scots tacklers. That's where the penalty is given away. Olivia Mannion just flopping over the ball.
Well, I was singing the praises of Frédéric Michalak, but so too Chris Patterson, 6 out of 8 against the USA. He was in good form, playing his 24th consecutive game. This for 3-all. Quick riposte on offer here for Scotland. Yes, that'll do. 12 minutes gone. And something to pipe about.
Well, I'm afraid the piper won't be heard in the cauldron that is this Telstra Stadium. It really is a wonderful sporting venue.
Packed to the rafters here. Complete sellout. And a great sporting night. Developing well here. 3-all. And of course, each eager to top the pool. Rougerie slips in defence. Pinned back to his 22. Little chip and chase, but it's gathered in. Simon Taylor, I think, in the way again. Townsend. Delicately over the French three-quarter line. Galtier is the man covering. That's a good ball. Fair play.
Well, that's interesting. It's about the second time Gregor Townsend has put a ball in behind Rougerie. A terrifically strong and powerful runner, but he's been found out a couple of times in defence. And I just wonder if they're trying to turn in, get the ball in behind him and put pressure on him.
Well, already I think we're seeing the importance of Simon Taylor. Here's Bullock, vice-captain of the squad. His throw. It's a trusted and tried partnership here that Scotland have. Murray and Grimes. Redpath, teasing ball, drops on the 22. Dominici didn't look too comfortable. Thought about the counter-attack, then made a wider angle for the kick, but doesn't make touch. Counter-attack imminent. Here's McHugh. 10-metre line, well planted back. And by Jason White. Oh, that's good running. Now, they can move it wide here, something could be on. Henderson needn't have dwelt, perhaps just a touch, but they've conceded a penalty as well. Certainly something on there, David, with the slick handling movement.
Yes, and it wasn't forwards out on the wing. They had Andy Craig out there, they had Glenn Metcalf and Kenny Logan. They're using the full width of the pitch.
Big midfield Andrew Henderson there from Glasgow. Recalled for the summer tour, played both tests in South Africa.
Well, in contrast to the two earlier games that Scotland have played, they're playing much more of a kicking game this evening and varying their kicking very well. They've put a couple of diagonals in, a couple of up and unders into the box, and turning this very physical French side. And I think these are absolutely the right sort of tactics.
Getting great support here. The chant of Scotland rings round the stadium. It's Galtier now via Josion. Galtier again. This is Krenka. France certainly have bolstered their front row with Marconnet. Now it's from Michalak. As soon as they step up a gear, they look so threatening. Up the middle, Ibanez. Still good recycling. That was Rougerie looking suspect, but the ball, did it go forward? Not quite. It's inside Scotland's 22. Anxious moments, David.
Well, great slick handling by the French backs. They're moving the ball on, almost tapping it on. Again, good defence. Andy Craig, the tackler that time, forcing the ball into touch.
That is one of the big pluses, the Scottish midfield defence, no doubting that. Craig and Henderson particularly strong. Good work from Metcalf as well. Oh, that's adventure, but slippering that surface again, creating some problems. It all worked out for the best in the end. Could have been quite penetrative.
Well, enterprising stuff indeed. And actually it's indications that it's the unconventional nature of Scotland's play which is causing the French some upsets this evening.
And that man you just saw could be the catalyst. I've seen it before from Gregor Townsend. 10 seasons for Scotland now. Fly half. France's ball, though, just inside Scotland territory. Keeping it close, and that's legitimate. There isn't an obvious shield free from the man with the ball. Now with Galtier, Michalak. The switch with Josion. Well, a big buff that was. I think it was Mather who came in. Drop goal attempt. Michalak. It's over. Snap drop goal. What a clever option to take in the blink of an eye. And there is going to be a word with Mather. Need to go lower is the warning. It was a big block, a cement block, wasn't it there?
Yeah, clothesline tackle that, Cammy Mather. Michalak, knowing that the referee was playing the advantage, thought, well, why not have the pot at goal? He was going to get a penalty.
Well, clever option. His third drop goal for France restores the lead. 6-3. 17, almost 18 minutes gone of the first half. Well, Michalak reminds me very much of Jean-Louis Barrault, who was so versatile, played either half-back position, equally adept at both. Michalak from Stade Toulousain, one of the great clubs, taken now by Ard Dinordaki. Set up on the halfway.
Move away, white tackler, move away. Play on, ball out, Sortie.
Ball was out, Mather was legit. This is Betson. And Scotland have turned it over. Long feed by Redpath. Then again the drive of the number 8, Simon Taylor. They're well set wide, but Grimes again. Almost in the battering ram role. Change of heart by Redpath and blocked by Betson. The scourge of half-backs, as Johnny Wilkinson found out. And was in fact a knock-on. So, but you could see Redpath just had no choice but to change option. He was passing it to just one person out on that side, wasn't he?
Yes, again, signs of indecision.
Stay on line.
And pressure. Redpath, Townsend, again the astute little educated ball.
Oh, yes, another good kick by Townsend. Varying the kick so well this evening. Slightly worrying, last Scotland throw-in, they lost the ball on their own throw, which is, you can't afford to give possession away easily against any side, but particularly against a side of the strength of France.
Raphael Ibanez, former captain, one of the veterans of the French party. Just getting clarification of the signal from the Basque man, Imanol Ardenordiki. Well, they've two very strong line-out pairings. France and Scotland here tonight. It was good spotting really by Bullock, who realised where the ball actually had gone. This is Logan under pressure, could do no more than that. Betson in again. Redpath rather short-handed out wide. This time the Gary Owen, as Townsend varies the routines again. Galtier underneath. Long feed. Always sense danger here with Bruce. Dominici round the outside. Good cover in the end, and hearts and mouths, I think, for many Scots, including David Soul alongside me.
Well, I thought Dominici was going to go all the way, but he was well covered by Glenn Metcalf. It was a lovely long pass by Galtier. Gregor Townsend's kick was just a little bit too far. But Dominici backs himself on the outside, beats Gregor Townsend to pace. And you can see him looking for the inside pass, but seeing the Scottish cover defence, and he almost ignored Metcalf.
Well, one of the great stars of '99. France runners-up, of course. Who'll forget one of those tries, one that he scored against New Zealand. Townsend back, cool and calm. Had a season out here with Waringus many seasons ago, and of course is very much the European till his move back to the borders. Brive and Cast. So much I sense on his shoulders tonight. Galtier probing.
Stay on, Blue. Stay white. Stay.
Magne, Michalak. Metcalf. Glenn Metcalf. That could be a useful clearance. It is, from a very narrow angle. Takes the pressure off. Breathing space.
Yes, two good kicks there. Nice diagonal kick from Michalak. Not rolling far enough into touch, but forcing Metcalf to kick to touch on a very narrow angle. And you can sense this crowd feels how important this match is.
The tension is extraordinary, and not released at all yet. It's almost a hush here, an eerie hush. 83,500 people in this Olympic stadium, and a game which is pretty well certain to determine who goes top of the pool. Australia and Ireland, of course, the likeliest people to face the winners. Betson out wide. Serge Betson Chua. Galtier held. Michalak. Clever switch. Brusque. But to space. Almost too clever for their own good. Nicolas Brusque at full-back. This is Michalak once again. Swift, as is Rougerie, but he's well covered. Out on the side. Well, most of the defence has been very good by Scotland.
Yes, they've looked pretty solid, particularly close in, and I think that's a trademark of their defence in the ruck and maul.
Not so clever on the bounce though, picked up by Townsend. Now Magne. Well, not quite the length to find Dominici. But it's recycled again by Arnaudiki to Dominici. Betson the link. Galtier. The middle for Marconnet, and he's closed down very effectively. But no advantage. Well, Michalak, France got away with here. Looked a clear knock on. Josion, though, felled in the Scotland 22. I was just waiting like the players, I think, for the whistle. Danger here, wide. And the ball down just as well. And, well, Arnaudiki just cannot believe it. There wasn't a knock on? Well, I think we saw one, didn't we, David, before this?
Well, I thought that was an extraordinary decision by David McHugh. The Scottish tackler was right up in the face of the Frenchman, and clearly it went into his hand and then straight out again. Well,
brave cover from Scott Murray, needed that, and the bounce on Arnaudiki. Is this Michalak, by the look of it? Yes. Well, as important to France as Townsend to Scotland, and having ousted Messeron with some convincing performances, bang in the ribs.
Well, I think Michalak was carrying a rib injury from the match up in Townsville against the Japanese.
See the anxiety in the faces. 8 metres out from Scotland's line. What's the call, says Scotland's vice-captain. Most capped hooker for Scotland of all time. Oh, it's untidy ball. And there's a penalty. As Pelouse comes charging through and gets down on the deck. Former French captain, third most capped of all time in French colours, behind Sella and Blanco, with clearance by Townsend. Still looking cool, composed. Laid back by Simon Taylor. Townsend closing in on him. Dominici won't enjoy this. Wait. Thought not. Well, it's looking like a little suspect area in defence, and that's not found touch, and Townsend's able to release Calf, but this time the cover is there from Michalak.
Well, you can see just looking at the players how physical this game is being, or is. It's taking an awful lot. There's no quarter being asked for or given in this encounter. So important in terms of where either side ends up in the quarter-final.
It's tight. But if you've just joined us, it's France who lead here in the Telstra Stadium, 6 points to 3. We're 14 minutes of this half to go. Brian Redpath, Scotland's captain. Nice switch of direction to Townsend, but that's floated, and Bullock will well, try and set something up here. He did well, pirouetted through the first tackle attempted by Magne. This is Logan. No way there. Arnaudiki and Galtier force him out, concede the throw-in. So stay cool, says referee David McHugh, as Scott Murray got involved.
Well, Scott Murray accusing someone in blue of doing something illegal, which he wasn't happy about.
I think he felt that France were lying over the ball a bit. Time to mention that tomorrow 2 more riveting matches for you. First Argentina against Ireland, and then England taking on Samoa in Melbourne. That programme starts at 7 a.m. Don't forget, of course, all the details of this World Cup and lots of great info for you. Keep abreast of everything on our website. That's itv.com/RWC. Halfway line then. It's still tense here. That's Pelous at the front. Fabien Pelous. Vast experience, former great captain. And he leads possession. And the drive is on now with Michalak, collared by Mather. They turned it over. Yes, good Scotland ball. Must have been a temptation to use that one on the short side, but they've got it on the open side now. The floated ball through by Gregor Townsend, just a little strong, maybe meant for Patterson to chase.
Well, I'm sure he intended that to stay in play to allow Chris Patterson to put pressure on Dominici. Good tackle by Cammy Mather.
He's certainly up with the pace, isn't he? And coming straight into a World Cup like this is no soft option. I mean, it's so impressive. The man who, of course, was born in New Zealand but had a grandfather from Stirling, fully qualified Scot, and stepping into the breach well. Pressure on Galtier, my word, he was dumped. But ever the danger in their own 22. Metcalf, good catch. Maybe the counter-attack here. Metcalf's high kick. Mark called and given. Michalak. But meanwhile, Alan Rolland, the touch judge on the far side, has his flag raised. That must mean foul play.
Okay, Scottish number 8.
Yes, going in late.
Okay. I only just saw him go in.
You know, he went
Late
in.
Okay. It's gonna be a
tackle by Simon Taylor.
Okay. And
Penalty and
number 8,
reprimand.
please.
Well, I don't hope it doesn't put him off his game. He is such a key man and playing so well.
Yes, he's certainly having a terrific game this evening.
I don't want to see any more of it. Are you listening? Do you understand what I've said? That's fine. I'll go back to it.
Well, he was out here in Australia with the Lions and could have been a great tour, I sensed, but was injured early and had to return home. Simon Taylor.
Well, there were signs of indiscipline from the Scots up in Brisbane on Monday against the USA. There's the late tackle.
I didn't read it as late, actually. It just seemed incredibly affectionate.
I wouldn't have called that as late either, but maybe it just looked a wee bit worse than it actually was.
Touchy touch judges. So it's France 10 metres outside their 22. Ibanez, tough customer. Michalak didn't need to go over, making a bit of a dive. Well played, Metcalf. That's a tricky one. And Bruce kicks it in field. Patterson. Well taken, Rougerie. Finally out. Aurélien Rougerie. Montferrand, from the age of 6, was thought to have a slightly suspect defence. Father was an international player 30 years ago. I think that's been one of the question marks about the French, isn't it? The back three defence, more of that anon. Redpath meanwhile. Now the big surge up the middle. Henderson first, but now a penalty quickly taken by Betson. Again, you sense the danger as France do things at pace, imbued with speed this side. So too this man, Kenny Logan. Not the greatest kick. In field, straight to Galtier. Michalak. Arnaud de Key.
Move away, let it go away.
Pelous. Beyond Mania, but it looked like a charm, didn't it? Yannick Josian probably wouldn't have expected to be the first string centre. Oh, slip by Mania to Ibanez, to Galtier, the cover's in. Was that going to be high? The penalty is already awarded, and it was Metcalf who came in too high. And there's no advantage here, and there's going to be a penalty. I trust no more than that.
Well, it was a very high tackle.
Oh, it's Craig. Well, there's going to be a consultation again between David McHugh, and he's firmly said to Andy Craig, just wait there.
Okay? No, I've seen a high tackle. That's as much as I've seen.
Seen a high tackle as it was in that.
I've got to give a penalty.
Well, there was a terrific burst up the middle by Rafael Ibanez.
That's fine, thank you.
Well, if they have singled out Andy Craig, they've got the wrong man.
That's what I said, Metcalf, but initially, and he has got the wrong man.
It's a high tackle. It's your third incident of foul play. I don't want to see it
well,
anymore.
I think Metcalf is coming along to say it wasn't him, it was me.
Is that understood? Is that understood?
You've got the wrong man. Okay. Surely then, 15, has he changed his mind now? Yes. No gold stars for the referee.
Well, poor Andy Craig must have been very worried about that.
Well, I was too, because I thought, no, certain it would. Look, there he is, Metcalf, and suddenly Andy Craig. But it's still going to be a penalty for all that. And that is disconcerting with about 8 minutes to go of this first half. It's 6-3 to France.
I think what has become clear is that if the Scots transgress one more time of that of an offence of that sort of nature, they're going to be in the bin. So they really can't afford to lose a man, especially against a side of this nature.
Not the warmest welcome for Michalak. He'll not worry. It's the points that count. They're on the board. It's 9-3.
And a sense that some of the French pressure beginning to impact on the Scots. Of course, the French have had a little bit more rest time. The Scots played on Monday night against the USA up in Brisbane.
A 6-point margin. Well, we've not seen the volatility yet or the flamboyance from France, but they keep chipping away and sending Scotland back upfield as then. It becomes a little, I don't know, it's like a war of attrition that turns, and then the confidence will come, and beware France confident.
And I think if as fatigue sets in, if the Scots keep on kicking, then gaps are going to begin to appear from counter-attack.
Yeah, absolutely. Redpath thought about but slipped. Recovered but not for long. Down by Jean-Jacques Krenker. Advantage for a knock-on. Those little moments in a game that can be so telling. The slip, then the knock-on. Redpath trying to shoot away off the mark.
Well, he's finding a few gaps up the middle of the rock and maul, which is encouraging from a Scottish perspective.
True. Arinodiki to Mania. Oh, he's away. Mania, danger man. Metcalf the tackle. Now the drive from Arinodiki. Betson under the posts. That's the back row in concert. We called them one of the great threats. That's brilliant back row play.
Well, they might not be individually brilliant. I think Manu would get into any side in the World Cup, but they blend so well together. You have to say it was a little bit lacklustre Scottish defence. Manu should have been put down first there. But then, great support by Arinodiki and a lovely round of improvised pass for Betson.
Well, this brilliant back row. And Manu it is who sparks them so often. France's most capped flanker of all time. Here's the conversion attempt, which should be no problem for Michalak. In front of the post. And suddenly the scoreline. And we've got a blood injury to Cameron Mather, just to add to Scotland's problems. But suddenly at 16 points to 3, that seems a big psychological blow struck here by France.
Well, Mather's injury is very significant because John Petrie is on the bench. He's injured. Who are Scotland going to bring on? I think it'll have to be Nathan Hines. I don't think John Petrie is fit enough to come on.
That late withdrawal of Beattie, Ross Beattie, adding to those back row problems which have, well, they've bedeviled Scotland these last couple of weeks. And we're looking down just to see.
If he's ready to come on now, he can come on.
And Petrie is the man to come on. So maybe his injury wasn't too worrying. Clearly not. Or perhaps Geach is taking a bit of a chance with Hines in reserve, so to speak.
Well, I think that's interesting. I think Petrie would have been in the starting lineup had he been fully fit. I think it is a risk bringing him onto the bench. You could possibly put Scott Murray into the back row. There's Tom Smith down there injured.
Well, we can ill afford an injury to him as well. He'll be 32 in a week's time. But a stalwart, key man. He's only missed 4 internationals in the last 4 seasons, Tom Smith. So we're counting down to about 4 minutes of the half to go. Great British Lion, all 6 tests, 97 and 2001, Tom Smith, and well, he's a hard man.
All prop forwards are hard men, Nigel. You should know that.
All prop forwards are hard men. All prop forwards are hard men, and have been for the last 2 decades.
A little bit more than that, I think.
Especially. Yes, Smith's okay, and they need these 3 points back. This is the incident. You can see Marc Canet totally on the wrong side. 16-3 to France. Points pulled back now of added significance. Here's Chris Patterson, who's been very consistent, and that's just as well. Big cheer to lift morale for Scotland, keep them in the hunt. 16-6 with 3.5 minutes of the first half to go.
Well, having conceded a try, it's very important to get straight back in, get some points on the board, and that's what Chris Patterson's been able to do.
The restart. Dying minutes of this first half here. What has been a tense contest, a tense crowd, tense players. 16-6, France lead. Rougerie in trouble. Just, in fact, Kenny Logan could almost have got away then if the flag hadn't gone up for touch.
A particularly difficult kick to take. Rougerie right on the touchline, didn't know whether he was in touch or in field. Eventually made a hash of it.
Well, that suspect defensive play, Dominici and Rougerie. Logan fast up. What's happened in the line out here? Big channel. They need a gap. Didn't have one. Scotland tap penalty. Oh, it's a poor pass from Redpath. An advantage being made here. It's Michalak. Michalak against Logan. Will it go first over the dead ball line? It does. Breakdown at half-back. I did say I'm sure the ball is still a bit greasy down there, but the pass was too low. It wasn't Townsend's fault. That's expecting too much of his fly half with a ball that's maybe a bit soap-like. Mania deep in defence. There was the follow-through. As we restart here, it's a Rougerie held by Stuart Grimes. Michalak. Metcalf covering outside his 22. Brusque. There's a lot of weight on that. Didn't make the touch he was looking for though. Patterson.
Well, he had so much time for that. He came in field to give himself more of an angle and then sliced the ball into touch.
Well, a fair reflection really. That's a key figure, that is 57% of the match inside Scotland's half, and France reflecting that 16-6. Danger at the front of the line now, bursting into Scotland's 22. Here's Fabien Galthié to Michalak, Josion, Betson. Good anticipation. Henderson was up fast, but so well, have they just not stayed on their feet once more?
Well, there were some Scottish hands came through trying to steal that ball back, and that was just a daft penalty to give. France weren't recycling it quickly. The Scottish defence was organised, and they've given away 3 points in front of the post to negate that last Chris Patterson penalty. Here we go, there goes Betson. There's the ball, and watch these Scottish hands there.
Later. We're into the 40th minute, including injury time. So likely the last play of this first half. (16-6). And Michalak looks nonchalantly away, heads towards the dressing room, and, well, a big penalty, that one, really. 19-6, half-time here in the Telstra Stadium. France 19, Scotland 6.
Emerging for the second half, we believe that Kenny Logan might possibly be in a little bit of trouble for what he did after the try here. Scott, you picked this one up.
Yeah, Kenny came down on Betson when he scored the try, and then Galthié comes in, gives Kenny Logan a wee push, and then Kenny stands up. Well, it was an open.
Yeah.
It was an open. It's not a punch, is it? It was an open hand. So maybe I think we're looking too much into it. Handbags.
I think so. That'd be very harsh, wouldn't it? They are ready to go in the second half over there at the Telstra Stadium in Sydney. Magnificent sight, isn't it? Let us rejoin David Soul and Nigel Starmer-Smith.
And you join us with Bruce Douglas on for Gavin Kerr in the Scotland lineup. Just quickly want to say, Jim, that you said Scotland hadn't beaten France this century. I think it sounds much better if you say it's only 4 years since Scotland last beat France. Brusque underneath. Townsend. It's 19-6, half-time deficit. Dominici under pressure, gets his kick away just. And good to see that Mather's back on after that blood injury. And that releases John Petrie, who we sense had been a doubtful starter. Well, obviously was, because he was certainly struggling injury-wise. That's Arinodiki.
Clean catch, stay 10.
Offside in the backs.
3 times.
Well, that's two basic mistakes by Scotland. First they lost the line out, and then they encroached 10 metres. And it's not the ideal start for the second half. I think Scotland have got to play the same sort of tactical game as they played in the first half, turning the French with the kicks, but they must get more players to put pressure on the catcher. At the moment, the French are just returning the kicks and playing the territorial game, and they're stealing balls at the line out.
But that's a knock-on for Scotland, and just as well as Galthié scampers away. But it's easy to do that when the other team have stopped because the whistle's gone. Well, a remarkable individual, this 34 now, and playing in his 4th World Cup, Fabien Galthié. He's gone round more than the 90 degrees.
Have come up,
I think it's the front rows coming up. France really targeting this Scottish scrum, trying to put pressure on.
Change in the Scotland front row. Bruce Douglas. His third game in 3 here. Placement in 1. Here's Brusque. No, replacement in 2, of course. Well, under no real pressure there. Metcalf would have wished for better distance than that.
Well, neither fullback was under any pressure there. Nicolas Brusque had loads of time just to pick his spot, put the long kick in, and Metcalf, he's not the greatest puncher of the ball, but that time it sliced off his foot. France had a great position and attacking line-out here.
Mather spoiling at the back, but slipped away by Galtier to Michalak, who pirouettes through the tackle on the Scotland 22. Watch out for a possible drop goal attempt. Not with this man though. Krenker, the prop forward. It was Michalak who was dwelling deep. He's now in possession. Very quick off the mark, as befits a scrum half. Here's Galtier, the real one. Now Pelouse. Early French pressure here. Betson using his own injured player as a decoy. That was Dominici, who now has it. Wasn't badly injured, was he? White with the tackle. Line abreast for Scotland in defence. That's close to getting high. That was the replacement, Douglas. Danger again. Josion, powerful man up the middle. Aronodiki is totally unmarked on the left wing. Even his own teammates haven't seen him. There's a knock-on advantage. Advantage for France. Here's the drop goal attempt now. This time Brusque. Nicolas Brusque. It's over. And that is a very important blow. It means Scotland have to score at least 3 times. 22 points to 6. And it was almost like clockwork. You could see it in slow motion coming. And Brusque had just taken up the deep position here.
Yes, it was from 40 yards out. Struck it beautifully right between the posts. And a critical score for France. You sense this game is still very, very finely poised, despite the scoreline, and it's very, very tense still.
Well, Brusque scoring his first kicking points ever for France. A man from Biarritz.
Move away, white hooker. Stay on, stay on.
Hero in his younger days was Serge Blanco. He has an element of that flair, but it's been subdued really. He's been in and out of the French side, but I just wonder now whether that added points, that buffer of 16 points, will not see France in confident, expansive mood. But here come Scotland in the riposte. Brian Redpath against his opposite number, beaten. That's good play by Galtier. It's a knock-on by Scotland. It's in touch though. Placage.
Well, Mr. McHugh's command of the French language, pretty impressive. He's got couloirs and mêlées and avantage and a pretty reasonable accent as well.
Key moments. Protected by Aronodiki and Brusque.
Well, this is an important line out for Scotland. They've got to win the ball cleanly, and if they could score a try at this point, it would really open this game right up.
6 minutes only into the second half. Plenty of time. If there's the will and the skill for Scotland. Scotland in the change strip, the white, losing the toss of the coin. Obviating, of course, a clash of colours. Now, a better drive. Good wedge formed here by Scotland. The ball is there safely. Tucked under the arm of Mather. And they're edging forward still. Now they're held. Must use it. No, they've kept some momentum going. The ball is out now. Redpath digs it out. Townsend under big pressure here. The backs lined up, almost like targets by the French three-quarters. And Scotland failed to stay on their feet and not release as well, I think.
Well, they were continually driving up this tight side, and when the ball came back it was very slow, and the French defence was up like a rocket.
Set up like ninepins. Rafael Ibanez, captain in the 99 World Cup. France, of course, runners-up in the last one. Dominici, good spoiling, well played. Taylor, knock on France. Oh, again, David, just as well. I mean, Dominici would have gone, wouldn't he?
Yeah, good variation by Michalak. Simon Taylor, the man again, covering. He really is so important to the Scottish side there. Just gets a hand in, forces the knock on.
No, it's the Scotland front row breaking up, and it's a penalty against Scotland on that account. The referee not happy that it's taken at the right spot. France, I don't know, there's a little cockiness coming into their game now. They did have a cockerel over here at the beginning of the... They found one, I got one sent from a farm, and they think it was poisoned. Very sad.
Went down with some curious black cockerel disease or something.
Yeah, it did.
Probably no coq au vin.
Here's Ibanez and there's Betson. Betson's a bit of a guided missile. When he cuts loose, targets fly halves, unsuspecting ones especially. Here's Michalak. Michalak nearly on the wide outside, slips it in the tackle to Josion. Josion and Marsh. Dominici, danger here. Brusque put it behind Rougerie, but he's still scrapping for it. Tom Smith gets the return pass in the field. Yeah, they're winding it up, I sense. Well played, Tom Smith.
Well, the Scots that time, they didn't come up in a line. Cammy Mather was about 2 or 3 yards behind Gregor Townsend, and that created the gap for Michalak. Good defence in the end, though. But another attacking line out for France.
10 metres out. Thion sets it up, and they roll it off. This is danger. They've got some real momentum to the line. That's going to be given. Oh, it's a tremendous drive. Palouse celebrates, and Arinordiki is there at the bottom. Emmanuel Arinordiki, he's the man, the Basque hero. His 4th try only for France. It could be absolutely vital. David, what a drive that was off the line out.
Yes, it was well organised. A nice take in the middle of the line out by Thion. There he goes, and they organise themselves so well. They know where the ball is, they're communicating with each other, they're finding out where the defence is weak. Toulouse really the man holding the whole thing up, and Harry Nordicke in the control of the ball. And once they've driven through the main part of the Scottish defence, it's so difficult to defend against.
Two tries. Oh, this young man from Pau, Emmanuel Arinordiki, what a find he's been. A Basque cattle farming family. Tough, hard. Not a bad number 8. 27-6. Michalak. Oh, so casual. Absolutely spot on. It's looking ominous, and it's, well, we're looking very much like a repetition of February in the Six Nations here. It was 38-3, and it's more than danger time now for Scotland. They are beginning to struggle.
No, it's not. That's a maul.
It's gone forward in the tackle.
No advantage.
Jason White across.
Sure, Scum. Sure, Scum.
Well, there's certainly no sign of Scotland giving up. They're
Oh no.
Tenacious to the last, and they're really putting in some big tackles there. That time Olivier Magne, the one on the receiving end.
Another who played through to the final in '99. This is Ibanez. 33 times France's captain. And of course a member of the Saracens club.
You really sense that we've got to in these sorts of matches, we're in the proper stages of the World Cup. There's an intensity to this match which has perhaps been lacking in some of the other games that France and Scotland have played. So crucial is the outcome.
Immense passion, enormous power. And the worrying signs for Scotland really is that in this war of attrition, which the first half very much was, it's France, who are so dependent on self-confidence, who are beginning to hold sway. Now then, can Scotland come back here? Again through the middle. Logan coming in from the short side, from the blind side wing. There's no advantage. And it was Betson who's offside. They'll come right across field. No clear-cut advantage.
The worrying thing from a Scottish perspective is there hasn't been a lot of evidence to show that they're going to be able to score tries this evening. They've not really got in behind the French with the ball in hand. They've not got over the gain line. They've not penetrated this very robust French defence. Unless they can set something up, a drive from the line out.
Well, I think with the pace of Logan and Patterson and Metcalf, I just feel that we should have seen the ball wider a little more often. One or two clear-cut chances of doing that. Maybe this time, with some imagination up the middle, it's Henderson. Big tackle in from Betson in front of the post. Now the bullocking his way towards the line. Better ball. Switch of direction. Townsend did miraculously well to hold on. Just instinctive understanding lacking for a moment, and they haven't been together so much of late. Bullock wide. And Taylor desperately trying to cling to the possession. There's a penalty though for Scotland midfield. Well, more like it.
Yes, but again, Gregor Townsend was on the receiving end of a pass. They thought they were going to come up the right hand touch line, and then he sort of changed his mind. They fed the ball, opting to go for the post. I think that's the right decision.
Absolutely. 3 on the board. They do need it. Let's get points on the board. They're on offer. Then come back. The time is not of the essence yet. It's only 14 minutes into the second half. 29-9. Chip away. A couple more penalties. France maybe can get nervous again. Secure enough from Patterson. That's his hat-trick of penalty goals. A reward for the effort.
Yes, and they need to get right back up there from this kickoff. Put the French under some territorial pressure. Try and retain possession a little bit more. As you say, keep the scoreboard ticking over. It's what Johnny Wilkinson does so well for England. He keeps the scoreboard ticking over even though they're under pressure.
The restart. White, who, like Redpath, of course, plays for Sale Sharks. Very much a Scotland-based Scotland side in terms of club representation or district. That's a terrific clearance. In some ways it's remarkable we're seeing this man, isn't it? And given the surgery that as recently as the 12th of September, you know, I didn't think we'd expect to see him in the World Cup at all.
No, it's quite a remarkable comeback, and he's such a key player for Scotland when he's on form.
Needs some magic from him now, but that's Josian for France. Stade Toulousain, big weighty centre. And the breakdown there. Good closing down by Townsend. Now the knock on to throw it away.
Sans avantage, knock on.
Sans avantage. Unlucky. We've stoppage. Gregor with a knock.
Well, that must be of some concern to Scotland. Key man going down. Of course, they've got Chris Patterson, who's very able to play at fly half, and I think if Gregor did have to go off, then Chris Patterson would slot into the fly half slot, because they've got Michael Blair, James McLaren, Simon Daniele on the bench.
Well, just remember, great action tomorrow for you to watch. Argentina play Ireland in Adelaide, England against Samoa in Melbourne. Wonderful rugby coming up tomorrow here on ITV. At 7 a.m. it'll start. Worth getting up a little early for. Good cover again from Simon Taylor. We're back here with France leading 29-9 over Scotland. Urgent action required from Scotland now. Points due. Pelous setting it up. Michalak well and truly clobbered then. Galtier, nice feed. Betson. This is Tony Marsh, part of this new so effective partnership that have become first choice for France. Domenici, Galtier, Michalak. He slipped the tackle. Michalak looks at the board. He won't need it. He slides to the try, and that could be the one which causes France to be secure in victory. Maybe a little early to say it, but I sense they are so confident now, and this man, such talent, such acceleration, slipped the tackle and slid home for a great try.
Well, Tom Smith was a fellow who couldn't get him initially, then Brian Redpath missed him. You can't afford to miss tackles at this level, especially when you've got someone with so much pace as Frederic Michalak. Brilliant. By the time Andy Craig got him, he had so much momentum, he was just going to slide over the line.
Had to convert his own try, should not be a problem. Well, he's kept the points ticking over. Scotland who needed to, but Michalak now with France's third try, and he's added a couple of conversions, a drop goal, a penalty. It's a full hand, isn't it? 2 penalties. And this is a man of rare talent at 21, the man from Stade Toulousain, who was in early to the side in 2001, dropped, came back, and now has really established himself ahead of Gérard Messeron. But they do things fast, David, don't they? They're slick, and once they're confident, it can be a different ball game. Scotland now urgent. Points required. Henderson, Patterson, but they're going crossfield, they're going backwards. Ari Nordicki with the tackle. Link man there was Townsend feeding Bruce Douglas, but it's turned over. This is Krenker. Magne. 36-9. Well, virtually a repeat score of the Six Nations. Tony Marsh. That look forward. Not given. Brusque it is. Back inside. Josion. Good cover. Domenici. Snaffled too. Great covered back by Andy Craig and by Cameron Mather. I have to say, I think if they'd gone the whole way, there would have been a little injustice.
Yes, I think the pass to Nicolas Brusque looked very lateral, that's for sure.
But my word, you can see now the threat as soon as France. Fluency comes, flamboyance comes, the elegance.
And it was a turnover ball again. Bruce Douglas found himself isolated. 2 defenders to beat, going nowhere. Eventually great cover again by Cammy Mather. He's having a super game given the fact that he's only been in the country for a few days.
I think tremendous, I have to say. Yes, in the absence of Moore and Leslie. Only here 6 days, and he's put in the stormer for someone so recently off the plane.
But it has been very much of a rear guard action, you feel, certainly as the longer the game goes on, the harder it's going to be for these Scottish forwards. They fought valiantly all afternoon, or all evening. Nathan Hines now replacing Scott Murray.
Well, there's the big second row, Nathan Hines, his second appearance off the reel. Used to play rugby league here, Sydney Bears. There's danger now with Galtier all the way, untouched almost. Fabien Galtier notches up his 10th try for France, and they're beginning the celebrations pretty early here in the Telstra Stadium. Where on earth was the back row defence? Perhaps that was not the time to readjust the back row in your pack. Galtier didn't need a second invitation.
No, just a little bit of weight from the pickup from Harry Nodiki, and again Gregor Townsend, a desperate attempt to tackle him.
Well, last year's IRB Player of the Year and 13 seasons at the helm of France's scrum, Grand Slam captain in 2002. And that is a reasonable cause for celebration. The man from Stade Francais played so much of his rugby for Colomiers, but they're beginning to stretch away now and make it something of a grand defeat. And the 4th try means the bonus point. Let that not be forgotten. 41-9. Michalak misses, but somehow, David, I see no way back at this point.
No, I think even the heartiest optimist would find it very difficult to say that Scotland are going to turn things around from here with 18.5 minutes left on the clock. 41-9 down. It's been a valiant effort by Scotland, but they just haven't been good enough for this very strong French side.
Well, they fought some wonderful duels with France in this World Cup before. The very first game between them was in 1987 in the World Cup. That was a draw, 20-all. It was 22-19 in 95, but I'm afraid it's become a bit of a different story here in Sydney.
And again, a lovely clearing kick by France, forcing Scotland back into their own half, and they just haven't had enough time. They haven't had enough possession within sort of striking distance of the French line in this second half. It's been all France.
I think one of the extraordinary things is when France arrived here, there was still a big question mark about the number 10 jersey. Maybe Merceron for his kicking, Michalak's kicking not so consistent, but Michalak has been outstanding since his very first game against Fiji, and Merceron just hasn't had a look in. He hasn't needed to, has he?
No, that's right.
Townsend not getting well, the lion's share of ball that he might have hoped for. That's a fine clearance kick.
And talking to some of the French journalists, they see Michalak as really a key player for them. They're Johnny Wilkinson, some of them described him as. And I'm sure that Merceron will find his way onto the field at some point in the second half just to preserve Michalak.
He is a great young talent. France have men lined up to replace. They can afford to, not that exactly, but they can afford to ring the changes, take off the key man. You can see down there that Yannick Roux, Milou, Tabako, I think, will get his first run in this World Cup. So they're going to rest some of the big guns, knowing that they've done a good job here, and it's only the USA. I say only the USA, not meaning to be disparaging, but it's not a game that France will lose. And this will certainly take them through as pool winners. To oppose, of course, what will be some fascinating rugby to be played with Ireland and Australia. Now, there's no one out here to cover. Galtier, though, is not the quickest. The cover's in, but late. Dominici slips it through to Marconnet. The floodgates are beginning to open here. Galtier, they're playing sevens rugby. Well, they were till Magne, but there's offside anyway. They're beginning to cut loose.
Yes, and again, it came from a Scottish turnover.
Well, they think they've done enough work for the night. They don't want to risk too much effort or what. Rather than rubbing salt in the wound and scoring tries, they're just going to keep adding on the points.
Well, I think if I was Fabien Galtier, I'd help run down the clock a little bit. Give my players a rest. There we are. All the Scottish midfield offside there.
Quarter of an hour to go. And the imminent changes. Just doing the stretches on the touchline. As is indeed for Scotland, James McLaren. Well, he'll know a few of these players well enough. He plays for Bayonne. There's Michalak, whose personal points tally goes up and up.
Well, there's 3 Frenchmen coming onto this park, 3 sets of fresh legs. James McLaren replacing Andy Henderson.
So there off goes Sylvain Marconnet. Great relief in the French camp that he's been come through all right after an early thigh injury. Just totting up 28 points for Michalak. He's certainly in fine form. 26, 24, 28. Not bad for your first 3 World Cup games, is it?
James McLaren wanting to get to grips with the French already, but giving away a penalty is just a daft thing to do.
Ses amis. Olivier Magne retires. Tabaco comes on. Well, he'll be delighted to get the first touch at 29. Hasn't even been on the bench the first 2. But, another from Stade Francais, from one of the hotbeds of French rugby. And here's the first throw in for Yannick Brou in this one. But they have depth. They really do. Michalak, Josian. Aaron Nordicke is marshalling the near touchline, trying to keep out of harm's way, I think. Well, there's the anxiety that's reflected in that snatched attempt at the ball. Well-founded anxiety, of course, at this stage. France again. They're just playing the whole game in the Scotland half. Taunting.
Well, a wonderful kick there. But the thing that strikes me about this French midfield is when they come onto the ball, they come onto the ball at such pace, and that makes it a far more incisive attack. The Scots have been just a little bit flat and without any sort of momentum. It's been very difficult for them to actually penetrate this French defence.
Well, there have been some, I think, who have failed to give due credence to France's chances in this World Cup. Here is Petrie recalled. Simon Taylor, no blame can rest on his shoulders. But I think in the discussions as to the ultimate title winners in this competition, France have not been given their dues. I think this is a side who can and may yet beat anybody, if not everybody.
Well, the French game is very much built around playoffs, and the whole championship's about playoffs, one-off matches. And we saw in the last World Cup what an incredible one-off match they had against New Zealand in the semi-final. I think things went a little bit off the rails. They perhaps had a little bit too much red wine celebrating, and
I think they thought they'd won it. I think they thought they'd won the cup when they beat New Zealand so convincingly. It was a fabulous game. Went down to Australia, of course, in the final. And believe me, out here, there's a lot of optimism about Australia's chances, not just because they managed to put 142 points on luckless Namibia. That was not relevant, really, to their challenge. But we're counting down to 12 minutes remaining. For Scotland, just the 3 Patterson penalties. But this is an impressive French side, make no mistake. Aaron Nordicke blocked well. Jason White scampering away, Redpath, not for long, the breakdown, Michalak No, he's called back as a knock-on. Was there?
Well,
We'll take it.
Absolutely, at this stage. Any sort of consolation that Scotland can get would be well received, very gratefully accepted, but the sad thing is it is only going to be consolation at this stage in the game.
Maybe just Hawkeyes required for referees.
Well, interestingly, he's given the scrum to Scotland, but I thought it was a Scot who perhaps knocked it on the tackle first.
Yeah, so did I. Aaron Nordicki, very proud Basque. I mentioned about his ancestry, and he does a lot of writing in Basque. From Pau in the foothills of the Pyrenees. A great find, 23-year-old, knocking the French scrummage. He's hovering a bit at the moment. I think he's trying to keep out of trouble. It's 44-9. France just camping in the Scotland half. Long drop goal effort. Michalak trying to round it off. He's got the full set of point scoring already. Drop goal, penalties, try, conversion. But there's a knock on, and going to be another scrum. Serge Betson in the wars.
Andrew Miller, another fly half, playing against France, completed that. And drop goal, penalty, try, conversions up in Townsville. Lovely Townsville, which we didn't see a great deal of.
We're going to go back, aren't we? It's calling us home.
Depends whether Binky, our producer, lets us.
That's true. We talked a lot about the Barrier Reef and the tropical rainforests, but there's a lull here. Don't forget our website with all the rugby news and action on it. itv.com/RWC. I've nearly got it, David.
You were panicking there for a minute, though.
Just briefly. Here's Galtier. That's gone forward. Still down on the 22. 10 minutes remain. There's a contented captain from Stade Francais. Most capped scrum half in France's history. And remarkably, I mean, anyone who survives for 4 World Cups. And the disappointment in the crowd here, the hopes were high, the expectations. I'm sure half this crowd here were Scots who'd come to try and lift them to a famous victory, for that's what it would have been. It was a big ask in that rather awful cliche.
Yes, and it was really the first 10 or 15 minutes into the second half which sealed the game for France. They scored. Nicolas Bruce scored a drop goal, Harry Nordicki scored a try, and it just stretched that lead, which put the game almost beyond reach of the Scots.
Well, we're pretty well looking at consolation scores now. 44-9. A switch by Jason White to Townsend, a bit static. They're actually retreating. Well, Betson not penalised. That's nothing, says David McHugh. And that's going to go deep. It might even go over the dead ball line, or it might not. It does. Scrummage back.
Well, it would be lovely to see the Scots finish with a flourish and get a try at this magnificent stadium.
Well, isn't it amazing? Two sort of neutral teams in this country. 83,500 here who've enjoyed the occasion. It was a fabulous atmosphere, even well before the game started, outside the pipes and the pipes and drums and the face paints and the bagpipes. And anyway, of course, Scotland far from out of this competition. Let's get things in perspective. Scotland, Fiji still to come. They'll need to win that, of course. But if they do so, they will go through to the quarter-finals. I'm far from certain who they'll play. Anyway, Ireland, Australia, Argentina. Well, that was a bit predictable. Crash ball up the middle. Forward pass anyway. Shake of the head from Gregor. No, not one of those magic nights, the purple patches.
No, he's found it very difficult to break down this French defence. Some of his kicking in the first half was excellent, but again, Scotland not able to put enough pressure on it.
France too good on the occasion. And that's a bit of a heartbreaker too, as the forwards have to trudge back deep into their own half again.
Well, from a Scottish perspective, it really places an awful lot of importance on the game next weekend. Scotland v Fiji.
Good work done by that remarkable man, Tony Marsh. 11 months until this World Cup since he last had a test, and he had an operation and chemotherapy for testicular cancer in March. There he is back in the World Cup, playing superbly well alongside Josian. He gets a well-earned rest. And Scotland having to kick out of defence, the pressure still on. Townsend's kick far from touch. Dominici scampering, ducking, diving, weaving. Belus, Michalak, Josian, been impressed with him. Hat-trick of tries, opening game against Fiji. Josian, none tonight. Hasn't happened a lot. He'll wish to have stayed on the bench. Touching Tobacco. Virtual first touch of the ball. Not the best.
No, he should have made more of that. Had a couple of players outside him as well.
Replays are cruel sometimes, aren't they?
Especially in slow motion.
Yes. The pain lasts longer. Well, Redpath has striven hard. Scotland have. France too good. 6 minutes remain. Nicolas Brusque from Biarritz covers. Kenny chases. Logan. Well, starved of opportunity, really. There's a man who avowedly is saying this is his last international sequence. Great servant on his 68th game in the Scotland jersey.
Won his first back in 1992 up in Brisbane, my last game. So that shows how long he's been around.
That long ago. So a must-win against Fiji is the requirement for Scotland now. But can they get a score? Now Townsend. Good support. That was Douglas. Patterson. Oh, so trying to take it at full tilt. Good angle being run by McHugh. Didn't quite come off. Well, we've 5 minutes on the stadium clock. The referee thinks his clock has gone 40. And
Rob Russell taking the ball up there. But again, it's been last passes, not going to hand, which has just prevented the Scots from scoring that elusive try, which I think they really deserve.
Russell it was with the throw. Townsend wide. Craig. No way through still. Flatter from him. Nice reverse pass from Brian Redpath. So the ruck had formed. Hand in the ruck. Maybe a final flourish.
Well, I think they'll want to stick it in the corner. Try and win possession from the line out.
The boot of Gregor Townsend. Each cap becomes Scotland's most capped player by one more. Galtier has taken a breather. Scotland, well, a chance maybe. So the replacement, Merceron, who's not normally a scrum half. Michalak will play there, of course. Shows his versatility. Probably the man of the match, and say, well, just carry on, play the last few minutes in different position, which he can do with ease. Back down into the Scotland 22. Lâcher, leave it. Well, a little of a sort of posturing, rather like American football up front.
Well, I think Dominici lying over the ball, getting a couple of boots. Of course, rucking has been very much frowned upon in this World Cup, much to the frustration of the New Zealanders.
Well, Dominici is a big occasion, but well, they'll keep piping, there'll be a few jars, and it'll all be a great night in Sydney, despite the disappointing outcome for Scotland supporters. Arinodiki from Po. Only won his first cap against Wales last year. Was formerly France's under-21 captain. Well, he's got the build of a good farmhand, which he has been most of his life before he became full-time professional in the Basque Country. Big cattle farm belonging to his parents in the foothills of the Pyrenees. Oof. Surge by Yannick Brou. He's a powerful hooker. This is Merceron interweaving with Damien Traille, who's come on. Michalak still. Been a knock on close quarters.
Well, two knock-ons there coming back for the Scottish scrum. There's going to be some very weary players on both sides. They've given it absolutely everything, both Scottish players and French players, but I can't help but sense that class is told in the end. French too much firepower in their tight five.
On comes Olivier Bruzet, and Arinodiki gets a bit of a break, well deserved. I sensed for a while he was not wanting to be on there anymore, and we've got a bit of a restructuring of the pack. It looks as though Pelouse is playing number 8, and obviously Bruzet, regular second row man. From Montferrand, back after an injured shoulder. He and Marconnet were real worries for this whole World Cup in the opening week. Oh, what brilliance! This is Bruce brilliance into the corner to round it up in style. Touch of magic from the young man.
Well, he had a shaky start against Fiji up in Brisbane, under a little bit of pressure from Poitrenaud, who played against Japan, but he's come in and he's been very assured. He took that ball brilliantly when Gregor Townsend missed touch. A lovely little chip over, and controlled the ball magnificently well to go over in the corner. What a lovely try to finish us off. It's been a great game, but France just too good for Scotland.
Well, once sensed, as David Soul said early in the second half, this was the crucial time when their confidence was gained as the points came on the board, and Scotland's waned, and thereafter you were never going to hold them back. So this to make it 50 for Michalak, 30 for him if he gets it. Oh, that is, well, that awful thing. It's icing on the cake, isn't it? I mean, it's 51-9, and it's been a pretty emphatic win in the end. And just looking down the records, as the final whistle goes, it's going to be very close to the biggest ever win, which was 51-16. It's actually broken the record. 51-6, 51-9, I'm sorry, is a new record. The final score here in Sydney, a record win for France, 51 to Scotland's 9.
A thrashing in the end for the Scots, and now they must not lose to Fiji if they want to stay in the Rugby World Cup, and Australia will probably be waiting for them in the quarterfinals if they come through. We'll be right back with the views of a very disappointed Scott Hastings, of a chuffed Ian Evans and birthday boy Michael Lynagh.